Welcome back to the Balance Sheet, where we talk about all things in the world of women's wrestling. I am one of your co-hosts, King Ajar,
And what's up, everyone? I'm Billy.
and we are back again. Before we get started, I just want to thank everybody for their support of our last two episodes. We had kind of a part two, part one, covering AEW's All In and covering WWE's phenomenal Evolution pay-per-view or PLE. Um, I want to thank everybody who continues to hit that subscribe button and that like button on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Amazon, on Samsung, on RSS, and of course on YouTube. The numbers are steadily growing, and everybody seemed to be very happy and ecstatic about the episode we had with our friend Hanny, aka Chen, and
Yep.
aka Beep What Line. And so she's definitely somebody that we will look to be bringing back in the future. The people have spoken that they really enjoyed that episode, and I want to thank her again for her
Yep. Thanks, Henny.
assistance for giving us that in-person view and perspective of evolution. So we're going to get started this week with one of your favorite wrestlers, Billy, in the history of the business. And it's a
Yep.
lady that is pictured right behind your shoulder, but it is not Mercedes Monet. It is Pamela Martinez, aka Davina Rose, aka Bailey. Um, Bailey has an impending free agency coming up. Now, it's 2026, as I understand it from her own mouth. It is 2026. And there's a lot of speculation and a lot of scuttlebutt that he will be the next major women's wrestling figure to jump ship to go to all elite wrestling. And I know there is nothing Bailey has said about this. Obviously, she can't. She is still under contract to WWE, TKO, so she cannot say it. But I want to set the stage here because Bailey has an opportunity in a year or less than that to go to AEW and really give that division another true main event talent on the women's side. And a lot of her fans, you amongst them, hardcore as I call Bailey buddies, want to see that happen because they just believe she has not been booked to her full stature in modern WWE. I know, 10 years ago, 9 years ago, she was booked well, but that is a long time ago. So I'm just going to kind of pivot over and give you the opportunity to speak to this, and I will add my perspective after. So, your thoughts on Bailey?
Yeah, you know, 2025 has been tough for Bailey fans, Bailey herself, it seems so far. It started obviously with getting taken off the Mania card. She had the match where she was in a tag team with Lyra and was supposed to be part of that tag match. Um, Attacked by Becky, misses the event. Obviously, we find out that that was a work. She wasn't injured or anything like that. And in true Bailey fashion, what did she do? In the time she was out, she worked her butt off. Came back in better shape, probably than ever. I mean, truthfully, um, really, really, really looks great since she's come back. Been involved in the IC title picture with Becky. Um, a match one-on-one against Becky, multiple with the triple threat, and then recently this past Monday, the 2 out of 3 falls with Lyra. Um, Pretty much every single match she's been involved in the last 2 months has been of an extremely high quality. Um, which is not like shocking, but I set the stage only to say she looks better than ever in the ring. Uh,
Mhm.
to my untrained eye, it looks like she very much worked on her footwork and positioning, and that has allowed what I identify as a smoothness to what she's doing in the ring that we haven't seen in years. She's always been a very smart wrestler, and the matches always tell a brilliant story. But it's almost like Becky certainly has worked on foot speed. Asuka recently coming back looks like her foot speed is also up. So um, just a crispness that I think we're seeing from them. Elephant in the room. She said to Chris Van Vliet in around WrestleMania time that she had a year and a half left on her deal. So that puts her up in fall of 2026. Now you may say, guys, why are we talking about Bayley being a free agent a year out? Two reasons. The booking has not been great. We may have the most, we'll talk about the most women's matches on a SummerSlam card ever, certainly with the 2 nights. And she doesn't have a match locked up yet. And number two, WWE and the way WWE does business. I see a reason why Bayley would or should resign early. Liv Morgan resigned early. Rhea resigned early. And I'm not saying early, like 2 years early, 1 year early, but it never even made it to where they would be looking at elsewhere, right? They just put the contract in front of them, negotiated, whatever that happened, they re-signed. We hear about it later. Hey, they've re-signed. They're in for 3, 5 more years, whatever. We advocate on this show for everyone getting paid their worth, more than their worth. Wrestlers are underpaid in general. Where Bayley sits in her career and where she sits currently on that ladder rung on this roster, it would be insane for her to resign early. It would be insane for her to just take the money. Because to be clear, I'm certain WWE is willing to offer her a good amount of money and a raise. Natty got a raise just for them to let her wrestle elsewhere, just not in AEW. They'll basically let Natalya wrestle anywhere in the world except for AEW. And I would bet that they feel even more strongly about that with Bayley. They do not want Bayley in AEW. But it may not be up to them, right? And I think she needs to put them to that task, because if she resigns with WWE, it should be with the full leverage of that fear behind her, that they don't want to lose her. It is unforgivable to me that she missed a healthy WrestleMania. Unforgivable. She's a Hall of Fame legendary wrestler in close enough to the prime of her career. The year after she had her best WrestleMania match ever, and she misses WrestleMania. So the next year could be rocky, and that's kind of why we're talking about it. Is, you know, if they want her to resign early and she's not going to do it, what's the booking going to look like? Becky got booked very strong up until her free agency, but Becky has more leverage than Bayley does to not be booked poorly on TV. I'm just being honest. Bayley don't have that kind of leverage, and I don't know that Becky has as much leverage for that now as she did 2+ years ago, or 2 year plus ago, because of all the people they've brought in, of all the people on their card that have leveled up. Liv's a bigger star than she was back then. Rhea continues to level up. They've got Stephanie. Io has leveled up ladder rungs, so it's just a very stacked roster like we've talked about. And that's where Bayley has to figure out, where does she land in all of this. And it's what free agency's for. That's why having two competitive promotions is good for the game, is good for the wrestlers. But I mean, I think the writing's pretty clearly on the wall if she doesn't have a SummerSlam match or has a throwaway. Maybe she does a deal with Cardi B. They had a couple words on X on Twitter, but I'm saying buckle up. Bayley fans. I think the booking that she's had the last couple months is what it will look like until she resigns, if she resigns.
Where
I
okay. Well, before I give you my thoughts on this whole stuff with Bailey, I have a question for you. Where do you slot? Okay, I'm not talking about where we think she is currently slotted in the WWE hierarchy because we don't know, but where should she at this point in her career be slotted realistically on that WWE women's roster? So I'm gonna go through the women. I'm just gonna ask you, I'm gonna name a name, and I want you to say whether you think it's she Bailey should be above this person, at with this person, or below. Okay?
On my roster, or if I was running WWE, or what's real life.
No, not what's real life, your roster.
Got it. Okay,
Okay. All right, we're gonna start. Rhea Ripley.
below.
Okay. Stephanie Vacour.
Close to even with Stephanie ascending, and I say that to say I'd love to see him in the ring and Bayley put Stephanie over. So below, but like tell a story to make her below. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah,
Becky.
below,
Lyra.
even.
Okay. Alexa.
For for my money, above because of the in ring product.
Okay. Charlotte.
Above.
Okay. Raquel.
Even. Sorry, that's not fair. It's just and I said Becky above, but she is. It's tough. It's really, really tough.
Raquel.
Raquel above,
Roxanne.
even with Roxanne ascending,
Io.
below,
Asuka.
above,
Kyrie.
above,
Bianca.
below,
Naomi.
even,
Jade.
above. But she's
Tiffany.
not, to be clear.
No,
She's
no, no,
clearly
she's
below
not.
there.
Tiffany.
I mean, if it were me, above, but
Uh,
she's below, clearly.
yeah, no, no. Yeah, this is you, not
Yeah.
current, because I think every single person I named, except for Asuka or Kyrie, I would make an argument Bailey is below
Raquel, maybe too, but yeah.
Raquel. But I mean, recently, it feels like Raquel is more of a
Well, Raquel
prominent
has a
figure.
story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's connected to something. Yes.
I think I know your answer here. Liv Morgan.
Below.
Okay. So I have went through 12 women, basically. And you do have Bailey slotted above a lot of them, or some of them. But in the WWE hierarchy, I don't know other than Raquel, Asuka, Kyrie, I could definitively say she's above any of the other women. She's certainly not above Jade, Naomi, Bianca, Io, Becky, Charlotte, Tiffany, Roxanne, Liv, Lyra, etc. Right? So
Yeah, so real
yeah,
quick, I think why I got stuck on Charlotte and then you got the Becky thing. Um, for Bayley and Charlotte, this really sticks out to me for different reasons. Bayley, her in-ring product is not slipping. If anything, it's as good as ever or better than ever, like I just said. Charlotte still coming back off the injury. But we saw what a story with someone she has history with did for Charlotte. That's not just because she's in the I mean, being away from the title helps, but the fact that her and Alexa go way back is part of that story. Charlotte and Bayley have a fastball every other woman you name does not have, right? Like maybe Rhea, Bianca. Let me say it this way: Rhea and Bianca, Io, probably Stephanie soon, are the only four you named. God, Liv. I'll put Liv there too. So those are the five that I could see main eventing a major show with men on it, right? All the other women that may be above Bayley have that fastball that her and Charlotte have, and that's that they could main event a show with men on it. But the requirement is that there's a story surrounding their history and them being horsewomen.
You're talking about
Uh
them as a match?
no. I'm them involved in a storyline that goes main event.
So
Uh
Alexa couldn't main event,
Match with men? No way, no.
even though she is main evented with a man, technically, in Randy
Technically,
Orton.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the point I'm making is the women like and we'll put Alexa in it too. They they get to skip the line if they're telling the right story where they're all involved with each other because of the history and the nostalgia. Think about it like what happens when like a freaking Goldberg or something comes
Hmm.
back. We get like a main event out of it. Becky and Bayley have history that made this feud really hot. Um, if they ran an angle where Charlotte and Becky and Bayley were fighting, people thought they might actually finally all three unite, it would become a main event angle. So
Yeah,
what I'm saying is Bayley may be behind some of those women, but she's also an ingredient to a main event feud that they are
I see. Okay.
not
I
because
see
of
what you're
her
saying.
history. And that's also why they wouldn't want to lose her because she is that same ingredient across the aisle. And as great as Mercedes is doing in AEW, there's something box office about, oh my God, we're going to get a Vina Rose Mercedes Monet match, right? And that's so is she clearly behind Roxanne and Stephanie? Probably yes. Jade, yes. But she is worth way more to AEW than Jade is at this point. Like running it back with
Yeah.
Jade,
Yeah.
AEW getting Jade would be less hurtful to WWE than Bayley going to AEW.
In that sense, here are the women in what you just described, I think are more valuable to AEW than Bailey. Rhea, Bianca, Io, Charlotte, Stephanie.
Yeah, and Liv.
Liv. The reason is because the thing with Stephanie is I feel like Stephanie is somebody they're going to try to get on every card, whether the story is good or not. Like, I don't know if they care at this point.
Yeah,
Like, I think it's like we just gotta get Stephanie on TV. Like, we just gotta figure out a way to get on TV. But I think okay, so I get the logic is very sound there that she has so much history and is such an ingredient to other stories that that's where her value really is. She has lineage.
yes.
She has a
Lineage is the
lot.
perfect word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she has lineage. Okay. I think Bailey is in a really peculiar place, which is at best, I don't think she can ever be the. Oh, okay. Sorry, something's happening here. I don't think at best she could be anything above a top seven person in the company. Like, I think I think right now, with all the talent they have, at best she could be 7th. So then the question becomes, does she want to be the big, a very high paid mid card person, or does she want to be a very well compensated main event person in the number 2 promotion? Because I
Right.
think honestly, if I were in her shoes and I were advising her, I would say this: look, Pam, what is left for you to do in WWE? They clearly have plans for other women above you. After winning, if I had told you last year Bailey beats Io at Mania like she did, and by far the person who got the benefit was Io, you'd have been like, no, I don't believe you. But that's exactly what's happened.
That's Triple H booking for you.
That's exact. Deep down, and I made this joke before. I don't know if Triple H wanted Io to lose at Mania last year. I
Well, no, I
think,
just think he doesn't know how to book champions. I mean, that gets proven over and over again. He even messed up Io's booking as a champion.
yeah, I guess he did.
But Io, to your point, Io can survive it better. That Bayley, Bayley is a storytelling wrestler. It takes her. She's got to layer stories in to get that engine going. And when she does, she is the most important woman in the company for a period of time. Like she was cooking at Mania. I mean, she was. The crowd would have rioted if she didn't win that Rumble. And she went into it not even that in November, she didn't have that much momentum, but they built that momentum. And by the time we got to Rumble, she was the one. And all that hard work got undercut by a poor title reign that had nothing to do with no fault of her own.
Yeah, the title reign was very weird. Yeah, if I were advising Pam, I would just say, Pam, what is there left for you to do in WWE? But this is not like a Natty thing where, hey, Natty, you're going to be job person on the main roster if you stay, and if you decide to leave, you're not going to be a main event player in AEW, but you're at least going to be in prominent stories
And on TV.
on TV. For Pam, it's or for Bailey, it's totally different. Bailey immediately would become, at worst, the third biggest star in AEW. At
Correct.
worst, she's third biggest star because Mercedes and Tony are going to be seen as bigger. But I gotta be honest, I could make a case that I could see the AEW fans taking to Bailey quicker than they took to Mercedes.
Yeah, they would.
I could see that because they don't look at Bailey as, and I'm not saying this is my opinion, but it was out there that the entitled creative control, held out, walked out for more money person. Bailey is a good employee, right? Like by wrestling, message boards, he's like the consummate professional. So I could
That
see
is the
yeah.
yeah. That is the part of her value that when I did that list or whatever, she is also clearly the locker room leader for
Yeah.
WWE. Like
Yes.
you look at those evolution pictures and the video on the bus, she's the veteran that everyone
Mhm.
respects and kind of. But to your point, I think the AEW fans would take to her quickly. I also think that she would be drafting off of Mercedes' hard won buy-in because if Pam were to show up, I also know Mercedes would be signing another contract. And I think as soon as AEW fans really know that Mercedes is staying for at least another couple years, I think all the great matches she's had, because the requirement to be over in AEW is you got to be great in the ring, which she's over. You listen to the matches, she's very over. But there's almost like a thing in between the matches where like some of them are still won't admit that they like her. But I think as soon as she signs another contract, which I believe she's going to do, that I've said, I think if she goes back to WWE, will be after the next AEW contract, not this current one. Um, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a WWE nightmare. Mercedes and or Davina Rose would don't see a way that Tony doesn't have them main eventing a pay per view. It just would be stupid not to. At that point,
But
we will have
yeah.
gone. Let's say it happens. I'm a liar if I am one. At that point, we will not have seen them wrestle in 6+ years.
Mhm.
Six time is, guys. My mind just exploded on this episode. Like time is, they haven't wrestled in 5 years as of this, what, November, October?
Yeah, the last time they wrestled against each other was 2022 New Year's episode, which was taped in 2021, where I think they had that weird gauntlet tag match where
Right.
Charlotte and Asuka were a tag. It was okay. Thinking back, I don't know who Bailey's partner even was there.
I don't either. But the last time they wrestled singles would have been fall 2020, no?
Oh, 2020. You're right. 2020 is
Singles.
what, yeah. 2020 for sure. And then till 2021, January is when they would wrestle in that like tag team. But I don't know who was Bailey's partner.
I don't remember. Um, was Mercedes with Bianca?
Yes.
Yeah, it was on
Merce
the USO show, right?
yeah. Bianca, Mercedes, no, Asuka, Charlotte. Ooh, who was Bailey's partner?
We'll have to go figure that one out. But I mean, that's a really, really long time to not get a new version of everyone's comfort match. You know what I'm saying? Like that's time flies. I mean, it's been a roller coaster couple of years. Um, but it's a marquee matchup. It's a main event. If Mercedes comes back to WWE, it's a freaking main event. You know what I mean? So it's a huge match. Um,
I I am going to have to be the bad guy here.
okay.
Um, is it the main event match or is it a nostalgia main event match that we think is still a main event match? And here's where I'm going with this because Mercedes and Tony had a very hot feud in AEW. They didn't main event. They didn't. AEW has never main evented the women ever. Why do we think two WWE women, essentially in Mercedes, Sasha Banks, Bayley, are going to get that honor over, Tony Storm, who hasn't gotten the honor? Now, I know you're not saying it's one or the other. You're kind of saying it should be both. But where I'm going with this is, are we are we as fans so nostalgic about the 2015 run, Brooklyn, that maybe the industry doesn't see them that way anymore, and we can't ourselves come to grips with that? Like I'm just being honest here because
Yeah.
like Bailey herself, hopefully Cardi B can pick on her so she can get on the SummerSlam card. If Sasha Banks were to return to WWE tomorrow, do you really think the first main event is Sasha? Like, wouldn't Sasha
No.
Banks Becky Lynch be a closer to a main event match, or Sasha Banks Charlotte, or Sasha Banks Stephanie McCour, or Sasha Banks Io, or Sasha Banks Rhea Ripley? Like, I'm probably gonna get a lot of people listening to this episode thinking, "Well, you didn't like." No, and I'm not. I love Bailey as a performer. I'm just saying, I gotta be honest here. It feels like maybe that ship has sailed. That they're seen by promoters as a main event angle.
Yeah. So I don't think they would get the first AEW women's main event. I'm being hopeful that that will occur before Bayley is a free agent. So in a world where Mercedes and Tony have a rematch in a main event, a pay per view this fall, and Tony Storm has already gotten a main event. I think it's a main event in AEW. Um, if during May say Mercedes title run, right? If you know, but obviously they'd have to tell the story properly. The version of Bayley that we just saw put on, as Sheamus would say, banger after banger after banger, um, with Lyra and with Becky involved. I mean, that version of Bayley versus the version of Mercedes that we've seen over the last year plus. I'm dying to see them wrestle. I mean, I think most people would be dying. They are better than they were back then. They're better.
Mm-hmm.
They're better
Yes.
wrestlers. They're better storytellers. They're better than they were even in 2020 when they again renewed with classics.
Hmm.
So I think the product would be good enough that it would main event. WWE, you know, knows what main events, is Roman Reigns working? Is the first question you have to ask if anyone's gonna main event. Is it a 2 night show? Um, Real quick though, for anyone who okay, so Charlotte said something in her letter that she wrote that was beautiful, and she talked about her hill she's trying to climb is to get the women respect into their 40s that the men get. That it's not like when they're 40, be like, oh man, when's their career over? Maybe they're just getting started at 40. Now, to be fair, that doesn't necessarily mean only main event. But if Bayley was treated just even as respectfully as say like AJ Styles was treated, um, it wouldn't be as big of a problem. Um, they go out of their way when AJ's healthy, and he's been hurt a lot the last year or two. But when AJ's healthy, they get him on the cards, right? Like
Hmm.
considering he hasn't held a title in years, he still had, WrestleMania matches and feuds and stuff. And that's kind of all we're asking for the women. Um, and not just when like Evolution's around. Uh, but if Bayley can't even crack that, then yeah, it's time for her to move on. That's what we're talking about. Is like
Hmm.
it's not even about getting Bayley the title or the mid card title. She's not making pay-per-views. She didn't make Mania, she didn't make SummerSlam. So why would she stick around to miss those events? She's not Natty, all due respect to Natty. She should be wrestling on PLEs.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I agree. And I have said it multiple times that in the ring, as just pure wrestling, not all the other surrounding elements of what made Brooklyn Brooklyn, if you take that away and you just look at it in ring, both Sasha Banks, Mercedes Monet, and Bayley have passed that in
Yeah.
the ring with other people. And maybe even their 2020 stuff did. I'd have to go back and really compare. So yeah, I don't think it's about them in the ring. And I know the match would be phenomenal. And I don't look at either of those women right now as like on the back nine of their
No.
wrestling career. Like I think both have a lot to offer, have a lot of matches left, a lot of years left, a lot of great promos left. Like I know that if they were to feud somewhere, WWE, AEW, it would be phenomenal. I just don't see it based on everything I'm looking at from either company that those two immediately are main events. I don't see it. I don't. I don't see it. Now, could they tell a story to build up to that? Yes. Okay, let's say Mercedes won the match at All In, and Bailey's contract was already up, and they didn't know where she was going. She's a free agent. She could show up on AEW. She could go up in WWE. It'd be a shock. Mercedes comes on Wednesday's Dynamite, says, "Hey, I'm the best ever. Nobody can beat me." Blah blah blah. Some music hits. It's Davina Rose. Yeah, initially everybody would go crazy. I don't think Tony would main event that match. I don't think he'd main event
It's
it.
it's
I,
more of a
I,
Tony issue than anything, though, I think.
well, it's a Tony issue because Tony's going to say, well, oh, wait a minute. If she leaves WWE, I'm just going to put her in the main event right away. And the other person is also seen as I just think that I just being honest here, are we looking at her, at Bailey, as main eventing just because of what was done 10 years ago with Brooklyn?
No, to hear counter argument, take the women part out of it because that the problem is that they're women. But you're saying the problem might be that they're WWE talents. Adam Cole,
I'm not saying it's women. I'm saying they're WWE talents. It's
Adam
not that they're
Cole,
women.
Adam Cole main evented their biggest show ever,
He did.
attendance wise. Yes.
Oh, the one with MJF.
The first All In is their biggest attendance show ever, and Adam Cole main evented. So
Okay.
I, hey, Adam Cole, continue to wish the best for Adam Cole. Uh, I'm not gonna live in a world where I get like Bailey's a bigger star than Adam Cole. She just is.
Yes, that's pretty obvious. Yes,
So
she's a
if
bigger
he can
star
do
than
it, she
Adam
can do
Cole.
it. Yeah.
Right, but the I guess you're right, but he did it against one of his internal talents,
Right.
right? Sasha Banks, Mercedes Monet is never going to be seen as an AEW talent. I don't care what she does. Like, to me, I said this last week. I have already ranked everything she's done in AEW, other than the Brooklyn stuff, the 2020 Golden Role Models, two matches, and maybe some of the Becky, some of the Bianca stuff. I've already taken her AEW run in the ring as more fulfilling to me as a fan of hers. Like the
Yeah.
work, everything. But is she still seen as a WWE person in AEW? Yes. Bailey would be even more than that because Bailey wouldn't even have a track record of having great matches in AEW in the scenario I painted. Here's what I would say. If I'm Tony, I would main event it. I would push it to the middle of the table simply because what he can say is, you Bailey fans who are upset and angry and mad that she has been wasted at WWE for the last, by the time she gets to AEW, it'd be 2 years. Hey, come here. We got you. And that's what I would do, right? Like, that's
That's
how I would do it. But he has never shown me anything that tells me he's willing to do it. Because honestly, I could have made the case that if he, I know no Mercedes fan wants to hear this, I would have done a Mercedes Soraya feud. I would have done it. I would have done it. I would have played off their history. I would have played off that, a freak accident in the ring almost ended Soraya's career. I would play to that whole story. And I thought they could have got hot with that story. But he has
would have been
so good.
would have been better than the Brit stuff.
Like, I just think he's so reluctant. Like, if Mercedes and Tony can't main event, then I don't know if the women can ever main event, other than maybe them again.
So so here's the so Tony and Athena look like they're gonna scrap sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
We got a Dynamite promo from Tony. Athena, kind of showed up on the Jumbotron, the screen, and hey, uh, I'm your problem now, type of deal. And then they followed it up with Collision, where um, Athena was, in the building and in the balcony. So she ain't holding that contract for a very long time. And Athena, as a wrestler, like the way she's booked on TV, forever champion, she is not the run around with the contract and use it later. She thinks she's
Mhm.
better than everyone else. True to her character, she's cashing that sucker in like soon, like very, 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 very soon. Can speculate whether Tony loses to her or beats her. The sooner it happens, the less likely I think it is that Athena wins. Just being honest, but to your point, let's say Tony wins and keeps the belt. Mercedes has been off TV for a week. It'll probably be at least 2 weeks. They had a great, all-time great match on the biggest stage, and it was hot. If their rematch can't main event, then I will start to listen to you that maybe he's just not going to do it. Because everything that AEW claims to be exists in that Tony Mercedes match. And if they can't main event, what else could, to your point? Because
Hangman
Tony is
Swerve.
the no. If they don't main event, what else could
Oh,
for women? If
oh,
for
women,
women,
yeah. Hmm.
what could? Because I think Tony needs to be in the first main event because she's the homegrown, looked at as the homegrown story, even though she's not homegrown, but Timeless Tony's homegrown.
Yeah.
And then her and Mercedes could have the match of the year. They've proven that already because they had a match of the year contender. The only people who said that they shouldn't main event, by the way, tomato, tomato, tomato. The only people who said they couldn't main event back when we were trying to get that main evented was the match won't be good enough to main event. Well,
Mhm.
you lost on that one, guys. The match was absolutely good enough to main event. Now,
Yeah.
the Hangman Mox thing obviously was always going to main event, but this rematch will be good enough to main event. It needs to main event when it
Look,
happens.
like I said, this is a stylistic argument now. For just a pure wrestling match, Mercedes and Tony was by far the best match on the All-In card. Now,
Yes,
if you want to bring in the choreographed gymnastics style, then now Hangman, or sorry, not Hangman, Swerve Osprey Bucks enters the chat. If you love the plunder, the violence, the stabbing somebody with a fork, Moxley and Hangman enter the chat. But you know what didn't enter the chat? Okada Omega, right? And these are the two men that historically have had the best series of wrestling matches of all time between two people. Mercedes and Tony was better than that match.
it was.
Comfortably, it was better.
Yes.
So, yes, as a pure wrestling match, it was the best thing. But see, okay, I'm the one who also said that if Tony knew going into the Hollywood ending, Mariah was never resigning, he cannot main event that.
Right. Right.
I was the person. I have been convinced to listen to the other side. Now, I still think Tony made the right decision because if it was my promotion and I go to Mariah May and I say, hey, are you resigning? It's like, absolutely not. I'm out. I'm not giving you the main event spot.
The
I'm
first
giving
one
it
ever.
to,
No.
yeah, no, I'm not. But a lot of people said, you know what, Tony Storm deserves it, and who cares about what if Mariah May stays or not? It's about Tony
Because
Storm.
Tony won. Right.
Yeah, because Tony won. Who cares about Mariah May? She's leaving. It's about Tony getting that moment. Tony Storm deserves it. Fair. I can listen to that one. But looking at every piece of interview I've seen of Blake Monroe, Mariah May, I wouldn't have given it to her because she wasn't. I don't even think did she even listen. Like when AEW came to her and said, "Hey, we want to talk contracts," she's like, "Well, no, I'm out." I
Yeah,
I'm out because the way she talks, it's like she literally told them 6 months into her contract, "Yeah, I'm not resigning. Do
yeah.
it, do with me what you will." And honestly, all the TV time he used on her, all the pieces they did such a great job. That was such a great feud. I do feel a little sad that it was wasted because the person that they used all that TV time on left, and they got nothing out
Well,
of it.
well, now your queue, your line to hold that top title is so long because of the investment in Tony and Mariah, just for Mariah to be gone. That's where when I try to listen to AEW, like long-term AEW women's fans, people who've been invested in this longer than Mercedes has been around, and that's where they're like, dang man, Chris and Willow just been like
Mhm.
on pause for such a long time. Um, and it's really because Tony's a central figure. But yeah, Mariah certainly was a big part of that. But the last, what, three or four all ins have been built around Tony.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know how much longer Tony's going to hold the belt, but the the fact of what you just said, I think, is true. Is there's not a women's main event in AEW that could ever happen with Tony not involved, and I would say she deserves it more than anyone. And so
Mhm.
I would like for us to get that maybe when she drops the belt, hopefully to Mercedes, or if it's not going to be Mercedes, if she's going to drop to Athena, if they're going to have her drop to Willow, to Chris, like do it at a PLE and have a main event. Like she deserves to main event more than anybody. Um, it's not even close. And so once she doesn't have the belt, I feel like we know the women aren't main eventing at all.
Yeah.
If she doesn't get it,
Yeah, like I look at I know most look at well, of course, Mercedes and Tony Storm have a much better chance of main eventing in AEW than Rhea Ripley and Io do over Roman Reigns. I actually don't think so anymore. Like, I think Rhea Ripley, I'm not going to take Io out of it. I think Rhea Ripley in WWE has a better chance to consistently main event pay-per-views than any other woman performer ever, ever.
yeah,
I just think that when I look at Mercedes in AEW, as great as she has been and as amazing as she has performed, and she has done everything they've asked her to do, and she's put on killer matches, and her presentation has been top notch, and some of the storytelling has been top notch. I think she's a bigger star than everybody on that roster, me personally. And there's data points to prove that. I don't know if Tony sees her that way. I don't think Tony sees her that way. I think Tony sees John Moxley. I think Tony sees MJF. I think Tony sees Hangman Page. I think Tony sees Swerve Strickland, the Bucks, Kenny Omega, Okada. I think he sees them as bigger stars. Now, I'm not, are they bigger stars? No, I just said they're not. And I have data to prove it, but that's how he looks. But I think, in my opinion, people in WWE, there is a belief that Rhea Ripley's as big as any star they have.
I I think that backstage murmur of yeah, but you can't have the women over the men. I think that that's dead when it comes to Rhea Ripley. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I don't think there's anyone in WWE like I think WWE is at the point where if someone said you can't have Rhea main event over X, it would be something stupid to say out loud.
Yeah, I think it's to the point where the men on that roster are saying it, right?
Yeah,
Like they're saying it. Like CM Punk is like, oh, look, Rhea Ripley, and
I am not
but yeah,
one of those go back to WWE Mercedes fans. I think everyone here knows that. I want her to do whatever she thinks is best for her. I am of the belief that Sasha Banks is never going to wrestle again. And what I mean by that, if she goes back to WWE anytime within her prime still, I think she does the Cody Rhodes deal where she's like, I get my song, I get my name, dot dot dot, right? Like she's not going back tail tuck to Sasha Banks. I just believe that. So Mercedes Monet is still a big star. Like if she was doing what she's doing now in front of a WWE crowd, um, that fully had their arms wrapped around her, I mean, it would be her and Rhea would main event WrestleMania over. Like you could do Roman Seth would be just as big a buzz on Rhea Mercedes. That's how big the start, and Rhea is a huge part of that.
Respectfully, I disagree. I no, no. Let me. I agree they would main event. I disagree that Cody Rhodes coming back is not the same thing as like Cody left WWE as Stardust. He was a jobber.
Right.
He left as Stardust. He never had a gimmick that stuck in WWE that worked. He was Stardust. He was dashing Cody Rhodes. He was mask Cody Rhodes. He was Randy Orton lackey Cody Rhodes. He was I'm trying to save my dad's job Cody Rhodes. Like he had all these different personas, and none of them worked. And none of them got over. The way he left WWE with the list and his public asking for the release, going and starting another, helping start another company to come back, that American Nightmare character was bigger to WWE fans than the internal Stardust, whatever he was, is left. Sasha Banks, that is not the case. Sasha Banks main evented WrestleMania. Sasha Banks is the first ever woman to main event a WWE pay-per-view. She is the first woman to main event a main roster pay-per-view. She was entry number one in the first ever WWE Royal Rumble pay-per-view for women. Sasha Banks has been mentioned more on WWE TV, whether it's Bianca in an interview, Michael Cole. Sasha Banks has an IP that is very, very valuable and hot to WWE fans. I don't, so yes, I agree. If she returned, she's returning as Sasha Banks, and I don't care what anybody says. I know everyone else love she owns Mercedes and I don't care. If she's gonna make the decision to come back to WWE, she's come back as Sasha Banks. I am willing to put a lot of money on that because to WWE fans, and by the way, we know some who are in love and have a attachment to Sasha Banks. Nobody had an attachment to Stardust or any of the 50 characters he had. But to me, yes, I agree. She comes back. She will main event with Rhea Ripley as Sasha Banks, not as
So
Mercedes Monet.
so everything you say I actually fully agree with, and I also agree with what I said, and I actually think that's why she comes back as Sasha Banks when she's basically wrestling the Stratus schedule. I think she resigns with AEW because everything you said makes all the business sense in the world. And I'm not even saying Mercedes would be right in this calculation, but I think that her feeling on it would want. I don't think she wants to be full time Sasha Banks anymore, and
Fair,
so
fair, fair. That's
I
fine.
think I think she would negotiate and she'd find out that hey, no, hey, love you. You have no clue how loved Sasha Banks is, how
Mm.
valuable Sasha Banks is. You need to come back as Sasha Banks. And I think if it's the wrong time in her career, she'd be like, okay, you know what? I find value in being Mercedes Monet, right?
Because
Like,
like, yeah, because to me, like her coming back, this is where there's a parallel to Cody Rhodes, which is I left here as the boss. I left here as a main eventer. But I'm back now as the CEO, Sasha Banks.
you could keep the CEO, yeah.
Or like
Um,
to me, that's kind of I and I didn't know this honestly until very recently, how much that the Sasha Banks character has such a warm place in WWE fans who have not yet fully embraced Mercedes Monet.
yeah,
Like they just want their, you talked about the comfort match behind you. They want their comfort character back. They want
yeah.
Sasha Banks. And so I think maybe we're both saying the correct thing here, which is in her prime, she's not giving up the IP, she's not giving up the control in terms of, again, he's not booking the matches. I don't know why I know she's not booking the matches because she just lost it all in. Because there's no way if she, who's been a wrestling fan her whole life, who knows the business, would book that way. Now, some people say, yeah, maybe that's exactly how she would book it, and maybe she would. But I I can see to your point, which is she's done all she could do in AEW. She's wrestled everybody she can. She's main evented. She's done everything she can. And now it's like, hey, I want to go back and I want to finish my story.
Yeah.
But I want to finish it as Sasha Banks, right? Because to me, that's the other thing. Mercedes Monet winning a singles match at WrestleMania means nothing to even me. It doesn't mean anything to me. I have zero attack. Yes, I know they're the same person, but I want to see Sasha Banks beat Charlotte Flair, or beat Rhea Ripley, or beat Bianca, or beat Io, or Stephanie at WrestleMania. Because I went to Dallas, Texas in 2016 to see her win the title. She did not do it.
How much? So we might unpack this on a later episode, but how different would it be for her to come back because Mercedes is her real first name? To me, it's like The Rock. He went away and he came back and he was bigger than The Rock. He was Dwayne. And
Mhm.
they call him Dwayne.
Is Mercedes Monet bigger than Sasha Banks? No.
So the data, this is a great transition to something we plan on talking about. No, but I don't think it takes much more than a couple weeks to get everyone up to speed on what Mercedes Monet has been doing, even without AEW footage, by the way. But the point I'm trying to make is what what moves Mercedes is not being Sasha Banks. What moves Mercedes is the pun intended control that she has with her character and IP. That's not control
Hmm.
winning matches. Transition.
Yeah.
This Crunchyroll thing was a massive success and something that she would not be afforded to do. Sasha Banks could not have gotten this Crunchyroll deal in a way that would have benefited Mercedes Varnado the way that this one did. Could a
Correct.
WWE star get a Crunchyroll deal? Absolutely. Who does it benefit? Crunchyroll, WWE, and then the star in that order. This deal, AEW, I don't believe has a cut in on this deal at all. This is a Mercedes Varnado Solnato, I think is the name of her company. It's Crunchyroll and Mercedes. Those are the two people benefiting from this deal. And that's what moves her at this point in her life. Will it change later? Sure, probably, maybe, could. But they moved a lot of Crunchyroll Mercedes Monet merch. They moved a lot of it. They sold out of the most expensive item within 48 hours.
I think so. What you're saying is that Mercedes Vernado, the businesswoman, would not be interested in Sasha Banks, the character, compared to Mercedes Monet, the character, because her pockets just aren't going to be as lined because she owns and controls the Mercedes Monet IP. She can cut deals that don't involve a middle person. So, in essence, what this is, going back to my music industry days, is that it's, you have Billy, the rocker, and he went diamond working under Universal. But Billy looked at the percentages of his royalties and said, "Wow, I'm getting 10 cents for every dollar. Let me go independent." And instead of going diamond, he goes double platinum, but he goes double platinum where he gets a 50-50 split. Right?
Yes.
That's what you're talking about. You're talking about the business end of it, which I agree with, that looking at the control she gets in terms of not only the percentages, but the type of deals she can do without having to cut in essence, her booking agent. Because that's really what AEW is. It's her primary booking agent.
Yeah.
All right. In WWE, none of this, like the Crunchyroll deal, look, there are going to be 12 women on the WWE roster who get the Crunchyroll deal, to your point, and it would benefit them fourth, right? Like it could be WWE, Crunchyroll, then a Netflix, then maybe a TKO, then maybe whatever, and then at some point you get a royalty check.
Yeah.
Whereas with Mercedes, he's using AEW as like the storefront to sell the merch, but she's paying AEW a fee to put the merchandise in on the shelves,
I
right? Like AEW is like a Foot Locker, or to
I
her.
yes. Yes. And I think that she sees herself. It's not, I'm not saying it's not about the money. Everyone loves getting paid. And if you don't think people should love getting paid, I don't know what to tell you, but you should get paid your worth in whatever it is that you do. And I know she loves the money because she's normal. Um, but I also think I keep invoking Cody and Dwayne, The Rock, because I think she sees herself as she's the one who walked out there on the plank and took the risk. And it's incumbent on her for women's wrestling to be the one who doesn't buckle. And if she comes back, she is only coming back if she wins something in contract negotiation that a woman has never won. So let's put it that way. And if it's really important for them for her to be Sasha Banks, maybe that's not a deal breaker. But some sort of thing beyond money, I think she would need in that contract to come back. And I'm not talking creative control, but I'm saying some sort of like closer to a partnership than a contract, right? I
Yeah.
think she's trying to break that mold for women because the men have broken it. Cena's got stuff, Roman's got stuff, Brock had stuff,
And
Hulk Hogan obviously had stuff. She's trying to get like she will come back if she
uh,
can break some ground for the women.
respectfully,
May
of the men you mentioned, who is she a bigger star than?
of the men I mentioned, she's not.
I do. Here's just my opinion on this. If what you're saying is true, and I have no reason to doubt what you're saying isn't true because her actions tell me it is, like the IP, the ownership, the creative freedom, like all that stuff seems to be very important on her priority list. If that's the case, she might never return
Yeah.
until she goes into the Hall of Fame. And we can all then have to accept that and understand that that's going to be the path that she takes. Because I hope I'm wrong about this. And I would love to see her break yet another glass ceiling because she has broken a lot. And funny enough, she's actually broken more in WWE than she has in AEW. But
Yeah.
the one that she broke in AEW is the most important one, which is the pay scale one.
And the
So
IP one. The
the IP one.
IP,
Yeah, those are more
yeah.
important than, hey, I main evented WrestleMania, but main eventing WrestleMania as a black woman is very important. So
Yes.
I do not want to underscore it. But to your point, if that's her deal breaker, because in my opinion, the reason Cody got everything he got to come back is because the Cody character outside of WWE was much better than the Cody character in WWE.
Right.
Like to me, I this is the one time I'll ever say these words. I agreed with Vince McMahon. The character worked. The American Nightmare character worked. That's why you don't touch it because it didn't need to be touched.
Yeah. So,
Sasha Banks to a lot of people is Mercedes Monet is a derivative of Sasha Banks.
yeah. So, real quick for us, for anyone, to put some money to these motivations. So, what does I loved your analogy of the music industry. I think that's spot on. That's exactly what this is.
Yeah.
Um, what does someone like a Rhea Ripley get for a shirt that's sold? What's her cut?
I have heard, and I could check and I'll have information next week that low end 2%, high end 8%.
Okay,
So let's say
so
she's at 4.
okay, so to give everyone some background on what sort of money Mercedes is making on this Crunchyroll deal compared to what a WWE, who they are selling more shirts. 4% is not a great cut. Um, those shirts are rags without Rhea Ripley's name on it, right? And
Hmm.
Rhea Ripley as a name is meaningful because of what Demi Bennett, the person, right?
Hmm.
But because of the WWE umbrella, they think Rhea Ripley is a name because of the spotlight they've let her have, right? And that's
Hmm.
what if you did, whatever you think on this podcast, you prefer WWE, you prefer AEW. Don't ever be fooled that WWE thinks that they as a brand are more important than the wrestlers and that they can make another Rhea Ripley if she was unhappy. They believe that. They do. As great as Rhea is, as respected as she is, will she main event over men? She absolutely will. They think they'll figure it out without her if they had to. Like, and that's not just the women, the men. They think the men are also replaceable.
Hmm.
Overall, Crunchyroll deal, I have no inside information, but I know how um, fashion and working with brands, vertical brand or as a branded wholesaler. I know how all that works. So um, Mercedes either likely got a large check up front from Crunchyroll and a lower percentage per item. But when I say lower, I mean like 10-15%. So even lower will be more than what WWE getting per
Hmm.
item. That's only if she got a large check up front. And when I say a large check up front, it just depends on risk reward for Crunchyroll. But it could have been figure check up front. I don't know how deep they're going with this, but I mean, she could have gotten a six-figure check up front and maybe 10% of what's going on. If she didn't get a large check up front and she wanted to take some risk and say, "Hey, I know my fans buy stuff and I just want a larger cut per," because Crunchyroll's a vertical brand, I looked at the shirt, I bought one. They have their label on it. So if you look at a WWE shirt, um, you have or an AEW or pro wrestling t-shirt, for sure the pro wrestling t-shirts. They have the supplier of the shirt. It's a shirt until something's printed on it, right? It's a meaningless shirt. Crunchyroll has their own tags on their shirts, which means that they are directly supplying them from where they're being made, right? Like they have a contract with a factory that makes shirts. They make the
Mhm.
shirt, it goes to the Crunchyroll store. So there are less middlemen in this deal with pro wrestling tees, even. She, so a brand like Nike, if you want to sell Nike, they get about 62 to 65 cents per dollar. So if you're selling Nike in your store, $100 of Nikes you sell, give them, call it 64 bucks,
Mhm.
keep $36. And out of your $36, you have to pay, if you're a store, you have to pay your rent, you have to pay your people who sold the stuff. The $36 doesn't go far. But Nike can do that because if you get $36 a billion times, it's a lot of money. But the lesser the brand is, the more that cut goes to the seller. So a brand like Adidas might keep $58 and you get 42 for selling per 100 of Adidas. And the scale goes this way the less known the brand is, okay? It's reasonable to suspect that Crunchyroll's the brand, Mercedes is the talent, the scale goes this way. But even if it goes all the way the other way and flips, because they are the merchant, she's the talent, she's the brand. I think it's reasonable to think that she got 35 to 40 cents per item if that's the deal they negotiated. It
You
could be
mean
upwards
yeah,
of that.
35 to 40%.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
because you
So
said
per
cents, and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
that sounds like a WWE deal.
Yeah, no. 30, say 35 to 40 cent, 30%. So per dollar, she's gonna get 30 to 40% of it, let's call it. And
So,
that's if she
like,
didn't get a deal. So just add that up real quickly on how
yeah.
much of that stuff sold, and it's a great deal, and it probably surpasses any merch deal she could have gotten from WWE, even selling way more items.
Yeah. So, like, WWE has licensing deals. There are certain WWE shirts that, come to your house that have the WWE tag on the back. And then there are
Yep,
certain WWE shirts that have like Ripley Junction or whatever it's called, something Junction. And
yep,
yeah, so then those are licensing deals. So they're all different. And, WWE has such a machine behind it. But look, I, I didn't know what Crunchyroll was, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm on my computer watching anime, but I had two kids in my house who have a Crunchyroll account that I guess I've been paying for, and they've had it since the pandemic. And then I researched Crunchyroll myself, and I'm like, they have 17 million monthly subscribers. That's a lot of people.
yep.
So a deal with Crunchyroll is a big deal, period. Like it's a big deal because the anime culture and to be part of that culture is huge because it's such a brand onto itself. And I think that you've given great perspective in how, the merchandising business works. And yeah, I think it just goes back to before we get to SummerSlam here, I think it goes back to does Mercedes want to be the employee or does she want to be a partner? Right? Like
Can't
if
say
you
it any better than that. She
yeah,
wants to be a partner.
like if you go back to the early stages of music, and I'm obviously hip hop is my thing here. Rockefeller Records, which is Jay-Z's record label, they always said we wanted to be partners. We are a 50-50 partner with Def Jam. So yes, while you distribute us, we are a 50-50 venture. We are not employees of Def Jam. Mercedes Monet seems like at this stage of her career, she wants to be partners.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the last thing I'll say on the Crunchyroll deal is I also think the 2 years of care which she said she put into that deal showed itself through, because it's not just a Crunchyroll deal. They nailed the merch, and her anime character is one of the coolest things that I think that she's gotten to do since she's become Mercedes Monet. Um, so I mean, you got the kids with the subscription to Crunchyroll. Like, could this? I'm thinking like old WWE Saturday. You remember the cartoons?
Hmm.
Didn't they have the WWF cartoons back in
You're
the
talking about
day?
rocking. You're talking about Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's like, is the sky's the limit, as Sasha Banks would say? You got to look. Is there a cartoon that could come from this? Like, who the heck knows? But they certainly drew that Mercedes character with the care of a big time brand. So that's why I think the merchandise did so well. Not just because we buy up her stuff, but it looked really cool. The jacket selling out was a huge $199 price point. Last thing I'll say on it, I'm sure they made more than 100 of them because they didn't call it out as limited. If anyone in the comments was at Starcast, how much of the merch should they have on site? But I imagine they made several couple hundreds of each of these items, and so for them to sell out as quickly as they did in a couple items was a big deal. So she definitely moved. I would think Crunchyroll's very very happy with how the merch moved. SummerSlam, SummerSlam, and I'm going to tee it up for you.
Hmm.
When we were talking earlier, right now is a women's heavy card, which you called out. And
Yes.
so you were very excited about that. So just talk everyone through what you're seeing on the card, and because I think you were also projecting a match or two being added that have to be women's, and it makes it a very women's heavy card.
So here's the deal. Right now, there are 8 matches on the SummerSlam card. 4 women, 4 men. The confirmed women's matches are Becky Lynch defending her IC title against Lyra.
Yep.
We have the women's tag team title match, which is Charlotte and Alexa challenging Raquel and Roxanne.
Mm-hmm.
That's number 2. Number 3, we have the 2 women's title matches. We have Jade Cargill, Queen of the Ring, cashing in her title opportunity against Tiffany. And then we also have obviously the triple threat, which is the Naomi defending her title against Io and Rhea. And then another match that seems to be very evident on the horizon is some combination of the Bella twins and Stephanie Vacour facing the Her service. We still haven't figured out what Julia is doing on this card, and Julia just recently did an interview saying if she didn't get on the SummerSlam card, it would haunt her. So for everything Triple H seems to be doing with Julia, I feel like she's gonna be part of this. So um I feel like this is a positive step in the right direction, which is
6 matches is what you're seeing. Six.
yes, 6 matches out of 12 or 14, because I do think maybe Triple H has learned from Evolution that 7 matches a show is better than 6 or 5. So let's say we get 12 matches or 14 matches and 6 are women. That's huge. That's a
Yeah.
very, very, very positive step in the right direction. And I am really, really, really excited about that. And I think it speaks to the talent that the women are in the WWE, and I think the success of Evolution.
I I couldn't agree more. And props where they're due. It's not just the amount of matches. We have 4 matches already booked that have a proper build and a proper story and a proper care behind them. Both women's title matches have a story. Becky and Lyra are deep into their story, and the women's tag has a story. So it is a lot of the things that we've been asking for. Um, I'd love it if those other 2 matches that you talked about got added. Still not really a spot for Bayley to land, which is the part that kind of sucks about it. But other than that, and Asuka and Kyrie but I'd actually rather the women's tag match be a tag match without it just like, oh, we try to get as many women on the card as possible. I do prefer that they told a story around the women's tag titles, and people are going to very specifically want Charlotte and Alexa to win them. I think it's very good for those tag belts, and I didn't get a chance to say it on the Evolution recap last week, but this adjustment they've made on Raquel's character since the promo she did against Rhea to set up their match, I think I think they've really nudged that character in the right direction. She looks better in the ring too. She said she got some feedback from Kevin Nash about wrestling bigger, and I don't know. I just think she's been on top of her game the last couple of weeks. I think she's maybe settling into her own, but the tweak to her character to have her be a little bit more serious and has been a good change.
Yeah, no, I agree. Couldn't agree more. Raquel has been stepping up. She's come into her own. I think her working bigger, as Kevin Nash called it, is really helping her. She's coming across like the muscle. She's not trying to work to everybody else's strengths. She's kind of working to her own, which is I'm a bruiser, I'm an ass kicker. And I think her and Roxanne, honestly, and I know people are not gonna like to hear this, I like how her and Roxanne flip fit as a team.
Yeah.
I really like how they fit as a team.
Well, I think the story is lives out when she comes back, and so you'll probably get that team for a while. And the reason the story is lives out is because I think Liv will be. You said this. She'll be one of the most over baby faces in wrestling, and I don't think they want
Yeah.
Judgment Day to be an over baby face group.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. Yeah, I think that we are in for a really good SummerSlam. I think SummerSlam to us is going to be much better than Mania. It might honestly even be as good as Evolution if the women get the time on this card and they get to tell their stories. Yeah, like I'm excited for SummerSlam, man. I am truly excited for it. These matches have me excited. I think next week, we will definitely be giving some of our predictions because SummerSlam is a 2 night event this year. So
Yep.
we will obviously be recording where one of the nights is already completed and the other one is about to come, so we can preview that. So yeah, I mean that's kind of our episode this week. I think we covered a lot of good ground. Is there anything else you want to discuss?
No, I think you build to these shows and you get excitement in the build, and then I personally, as a fan, find excitement in the reset when it's done right. So I'm interested to see kind of some of the things coming up in AEW. Do we get Athena Tony right away, which it looks like? Um, who's Mercedes Forbidden Door match going to be? She does have a match before we record next. That will be um, Rev Pro in Wolverhampton against Sapphire Reed. Really, really cool background story if y'all want to look into it. But I think she's only 20 years old. Grew up a Sasha Banks fan. And she cut a really awesome backstage promo about loving Mercedes, but also wanting to beat her. So hopefully that will be a cool match. But no, looking to see what AEW resets to. They have been getting more women on TV lately. There's talk of a uh, tag team belts coming through, and then WWE. Um, I think SummerSlam obviously will hit a crescendo, and then what's the fallout from there? Bianca should be back on TV hopefully sometime soon, wrestling, and then kind of what direction does everyone go? So good times
Good
for sure.
times. Yeah, Bianca coming back. I forgot about that. Okay, well, on that note, thank you for another week of listening to the balance sheet. Hope you enjoy this episode. And we will be back next week. And next week will be more of a traditional episode where we discuss kind of the week in review events, but we've given you a lot of that. So we wanted to give you a different perspective. So please
Yep.
give us your feedback on this episode. Like, subscribe on whatever platform you choose to, but preferably Spotify and YouTube. And on that note, we will talk to everybody next week.
Thanks everyone.